Today, you guys become experts at Dark World. There's been two decks I've been practicing for their arrival. One is Post-Photon Hypernova Kashtira. People hate me talking about it. And the other is Dark World. Now, 5 months ago, I've been practicing with the deck without all of its cards announced, and now we know everything. But the interesting part is the ban list kind of kicked off and kind of readjusted how I wanted to play this. And now we are also in the Ishizu tournament format. There's been a lot of adjustments done just so that we don't benefit the opponent, and this is my current finding. So I'm going to give you guys a deck profile, and we're going to do test hands because I am heavily focused on dangers and there's RNG involved. So I'll give you guys my thought process of what I'm trying to build within my board and what I'm trying to do. So make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and don't forget to check out MST.TV because it really helps out the channel when you guys check out our sleeves, mats, and all those other necessities. And let's go. So to kick off the build, I have triple rainbow. So rainbow, of course, you get to add a level 5 or higher Dark World monster if you discard it by a card effect. If your opponent discards it by a card effect, not only do you get that, but you also get to special summon out a level 4 or lower Dark World monster from the graveyard or from the deck onto either field. That's really good, but based on my personal experience, if you do get to discard this by your opponent's card effect, it's because you gave them a Ceruli. So typically, I would summon out a Genta, or I would summon out a Snow just so that I can bounce it right back into my hand, immediately use their effects to gain additional advantage. And if you give your opponent a Ceruli, they can't activate stuff like Imperm, and they're stuck with unable to use their Gamma because they now control a monster. It really just forces a lot of random stuff out of your opponent. So that's why this card is amazing. Searching Silva, searching Grapha, searching for the one that you don't have. Ideally, I'd like to search Grapha if I have the ability to fusion summon, but if I don't have it and I need the ability to loop monsters, then I go for Silva. But Grapha is typically the better bet. Next, triple Grapha. Like, Tom, why are you running so many level 8s? Like, don't you just want to cut one back? The answer is no for me, because Bystials are just everywhere and the Shizu stuff are just everywhere. Now, one thing that they have to worry about is that their stuff is once per turn. So if you manage to reload the graveyard the same way, you don't have to care because you're not once per turn. You just keep going. You're a deck with all gas, and a little bit of gas leak isn't really going to hurt you. Next, Genta. This is the Dark World Field Spell Searcher. Also really amazing because when it's banished, it summons itself back from the graveyard. And just to note one fun combo with these guys, especially when it comes to the interaction of Bystials, if you ditch this to search for the field spell and you have this in your hand, your opponent can't hit you with Bystial cards because you control no monsters. So you activate the field spell, ditch this into the graveyard, banish that, and then draw a card, get a search, get a summon. This card might be threatened by getting banished, but you did get a lot of card advantage and advance your game state. So it's actually still pretty decent, especially when your opponent can't disrupt you that hard. And putting this card in the graveyard is fantastic because Bystial players don't want to banish this because it gives you a free card. But hey, that's one way to play it. Of course, you also want to play with Snow. Snow is your Omni Search. And we're playing 2 copies of Silva, again, Bystial cards. And this card, when your opponent ditches it, that's like the worst part, especially when you Ceruli it to them or Fusion Grapha to ditch this. That's why you're always threatening your opponent to hand loop them. Sometimes you want to hand loop them naturally by using Ceruli, but in other cases where you have Grapha on the field and you just like pressure them like, hey, if you activate this, not only am I gonna stop your hand trap, I'm also gonna make you neg 2 more cards because I'm gonna summon out Silva. And you're just gonna bounce Silva back anyway. But the reason why we're playing 2 copies is because Bystials might banish one, and we don't want to load our deck with spell cards. If I didn't already tell you guys, my deck ratio is 32-8 because having a handful of field spells, or rather handful of spells, is just terrible. You can't play. I don't want to draw into more cards and just brick. So I want to be able to constantly ditch cards, and I want to not give my opponent any advantage. Now here's an interesting one. I'm playing 2 copies of Ceruli. Most people are only playing 1 copy, and back in the day I didn't even want to play this card at all. I thought this card like just sucked, but once I started to see the additional effects of all the new monsters, I was like, you know what? This card's actually not that bad, especially if you can ditch like a rainbow. You get to combo like and develop your board for free. Even the old school cards aren't that bad, and if you get to ditch it with like a Silva, then yeah, your opponent is like even more screwed. So you actually have a pretty decent amount of cards that you don't mind throwing away thanks to Ceruli. But again, Ceruli is another card that needs a little bit of help getting the discard. That's why we're focusing a lot on dangers, because dangers, that just gives me a ton of discard outlet. That's what like one thing that is a bit of a meta call for this deck is that Droll is not in the format. That is one of the biggest blessings. Thank God tier limited Shizu is so powerful. That's why Droll isn't in the format, so we get to really abuse it. And a lot of like Effect Veiler, Imperm, those guys aren't here, so that's like something that we're taking advantage of as well for the meta call. As for the remaining 2 Dark World monsters, we're playing 2 copies of Rao. Try to convert these into Pot of Greed if you can, but otherwise they just like self-replace themselves. It's decent upstarts with a body. But that's it for the Dark World monsters. Okay, so let's get into the danger monsters. I'm playing Triple Bigfoot. I'm trying to get to the Giant Trainer as soon as possible. I need as many names as I can. So Triple Bigfoot, and Bigfoot's just really good at cracking boards anyway. Even if I'm locked under like random floodgates, this is the card that I want in my hand. As for more level 8s, we have 2 Thunderbirds and 1 more Ogopogo. I was going to play another Ogopogo, but there was just way too many. Somehow I just constantly opened way too many dangers, and so I had to cut back a few. And with Curious Hit, I also had to cut back on the Nessie because this is not level 8. It's hard to manipulate those levels. So linking it off, I'm mainly just going to IP Masquerena for those plays, or maybe a Muckraker. And 1 Jackalope. Jackalope's fantastic, but you don't activate Jackalope unless you really have to. It's like the one card that I would hold in my hand as long as possible and hope that it gets ditched so I can summon out a level 8. And we play 2 Mothmans and a Chupacabra. I don't like using Mothman. I like to activate Mothman and I hope I don't ditch it, but if I do ditch it, at least it gives me another discard outlet, and Chupacabra helps me get another level 8 back onto the field. And it's also a fiend, so it also works with the Dark World field spell. And as for the stuff I'm being very greedy with, one, of course, we have Zephyros the Elite. I think this is just good because you get to bounce back your Grapha. It's one of the few ways you can bounce back Grapha, because the summoning condition of Rainbow, you can bounce anything but a level 8. So you have to go level 7 or lower. So that's like the limitation. But this can bounce your Grapha back so you can recycle your Grapha or recycle your field spell. But I am also playing a Necromantic King. If the tier limited Shizu players are going to, you know, play the odds, then I'm also gonna put a card in my favor, and they're gonna have to play with my odds as well. And if I mill this, or if I force them to ditch it with the Ceruli, I get to skip their turn. Who cares? And that's what I'm trying to take advantage of here. Now, if Necromantic King is not your cup of tea, then you can go for Parl, the Hermit of Dark World, because this is your Monster Reborn. Now, what I would say is that if you're playing against any Ishizu tier matchup, Parl does serve a particular play, which is to give your opponent the Ceruli. Alright, so you give your opponent the Ceruli and ditch Parl with it. Parl will summon back a level 4 and maybe one of your banished level 4, giving you both of them, and then you can make a Dweller. So that's one easy way of making Dweller with the deck. And anyways, that's just another note to put in here. And now we're going to the spell cards. Spell cards, I play 2 copies of Dark World Accession. This is just another discard outlet. I don't even care if this card gets discarded because it gives me another discard to add it back, and that can usually fix up a lot of the problematic hands that I have. And playing this in the opening play, I think it's actually fantastic. I love opening this card. Next, I'm only playing 2 Gates of the Dark World. You guys can play 3 if you want. I just didn't feel the need. Yes, Genta is also not once per turn when it comes to searching this field spell, but the Banish to summon itself back out, that one is once per turn. That is the limitation. But I don't like field spell drawing into field spell because I'm starting to banish stuff out of my graveyard, and I don't really like that. And I think that if I have enough gas, I won't even need the 3rd copy. That's kind of my logic behind this, and I don't want to open like 3 field spells, 2 field spells in the opening hand, really killing Genta. We play 1 Puppetry and 1 Dark World Archives. I love Archives. Archives is there to help you set up some chain blocks if you know how to use it properly. And it's really useful when you do get to do it, and you get to just proc so many effects. Now, just note, just for a ruling fact, if you want to use the first effect using it as a discard outlet, you need to control the Dark World monster, otherwise you can't get that attack boost. And if you can't get the attack boost, you're not getting any effect, so you can't use it. So typically, I like to just discard the Dark World monster just to get the second effect to discard and draw 2 cards. That's what I love it for. And this one here, it's just your triple DD Crow, but when you have it in the graveyard, you can banish it to add back one of your banished Dark World, so it can help you cycle off a little bit better. And final 2 spell cards, one being Beginning of the End. Yeah, I'm gonna play this card. It's literally draw 3. Anytime you draw 3 is good, and it's mainly there to throw away the extra Dark World monsters or all the danger monsters that you're playing. So you don't really need to see your dangers anymore. You just turn them into 3 additional new cards, which is great. And this one's a bit greedy. You don't have to play this if you don't want to, because this is extremely greedy. It's card destruction. So card destruction, just hear me out, guys. Don't play this if you know that they're a great synergistic matchup, all right? But if your hand has at least 3 Dark Worlds, you don't even have to care too much, because you're going to be able to proc all the effects, and you're just like mass plussing. And I think you can out plus the advantage that the other player might be getting, and it might even enable a lot of your popping effects. So there's like a bit of a scenario here where it's good and bad. But yeah, this one definitely is risky. But if you do have enough effects, then yeah, go ahead and just activate it. But if you don't want to run another copy of Card Destruction, I would recommend maybe another copy of Puppetry or another copy of the Field Spell. So for the extra deck, this deck is fairly flexible of what you want to play. You can play more Links or more Xyz depending on the style that you want to play. I'm doing a rank 8 spam, so here we go. Starting off, we're playing 2 copies of Grappa. You just have to play this card. This card is just amazing. It converts, I love it, converting monster effects into something else. You convert normal spell or trap cards or monster effects into your opponent discards 1 card, and since it's converting to your opponent discards 1 card, you get to discard a card of your choice and maybe procking a secondary effect, which makes things very safe. It's like the best form of quote-unquote negation or counterplay against your opponent's cards, and it's also really big. Also, the Accession is also like a quick play spell, so it's very easy to land this monster onto the field, even if you can't activate or if it got negated earlier. Next, okay, here comes the rank 8s. We have Coach King Giant Trainer. Love this card. If I resolve this card, I think I'm going to win every time, because literally it's Pot of Greed. It's also a big body, but the remainder of the body, what do you do with it? You just link it off. That's what I would say. Just link it off once you've drawn your 3 cards, because this card is thrice per turn, and people aren't playing Imperm or Veiler, which makes this card just one of the easiest drops, and you can even drop it before they can even drop a Nib on you. And also, Nib's also not in the format that much, so you can see that if this deck takes off, a lot of those problems are going to come back, unfortunately. As for the remaining 8s, we have number 90, Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. We have number 38, Hope Harbinger, and we have Dengirsu, just Omni Removal. This is acting as almost like a Evolves of Dolka, because it's a monster effect negation, especially if you've seen Nib already, or if you've encountered it, then you should make this if you can't land a safe board, all right? And then this Hope Harbinger is just to negate spell cards and just absorb attacks. As for the rank 4s, we have Dagaris. Dagaris has a draw effect and discard, which is great. You're gonna have to skip a draw phase though. Just keep that in mind, otherwise you're gonna get a game loss. Then there is Abyss Dweller to stun people out, and we have Baguska to pivot from the D-shifters, because you can still really easily put 4s on board. I mean, just 2 dangers, like activate a danger, normal summon 1 card, boom. Sit on a Baguska if they're going to shifter you. So you have a little bit of pivoting available for yourself. As for the Links, we have Muckraker, which also has a discard outlet, can help you revive, but this card does lock you into Fiend, so just keep that in mind, that you're going to be losing access to some of the cards in your extra deck. But lucky for us, a lot of like these other cards are still Fiends. Now we have IP Masquerena. You're not going to be able to make that if you do it, but like you have a lot of extra bodies, and IP Masquerena means that we're going to go into some of these bosses here. We have Nightmare Unicorn, which is also a Fiend, so even with Muckraker, you can still like get access to Unicorn, but don't forget, Muckraker can't be used as link material during the turn it's summoned. But the other Fiend that we have is Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. If you can't clear off your monster, a monster on the field, then Underworld Goddess is just a freebie. You generate so many bodies on the field anyway, and they're all just free summons, and they're not once per turn. Why wouldn't you just generate this to clear off the problematic monster? And the other goddess you can play, of course, Appaloosa. And this one is also a flex spot, because I really don't think you need an access code. You can play anything. Honestly, you can play anything in this spot. Maybe you can play a Zeus instead of what I'm playing. That's also fine. But I don't think this deck has any problems clearing board, because of the amount of like dangers I'm playing and the amount of like Grapha procking that you can get. You can clean up a board pretty easily. But that's the main deck, that's the extra deck. However you guys want to tune in, the side deck usually would include 3 copies of Skill Drain in there, just because your stuff is so beefy and Skill Drain hurts a lot of other people. But regardless, let's go do some test hand, see how we do. Alright, one hand wonders. Let's see if we can hand loop our opponent with this. There's just a lot going for it. It's a lot of it's pretty random. So we got Rainbow, that's good. Zephyros, Ogopogo, discard outlet. Okay, we got multiple discard outlets, and we have a Silva already. Okay, this is not bad, not the best, but we'll see where we go with this. We're gonna start off with Ogopogo. We're gonna activate Ogopogo's effect, and we're gonna roll a die here. And 1 here, 5 here, 6 reroll. 3. We hit the rainbow. Oh my god, what a sack. So we get the special summon out the Ogopogo and draw a card. this effect is going off. We're going to add to our hand a Grapha. Okay, Grapha has been added. We're gonna have to shuffle up probably. Yeah, very, very likely. Next, I'm actually gonna use Mothman. I'm gonna activate Mothman. So we're gonna have to shuffle up here because we're gonna either be drawing a card or we're gonna draw a card regardless. So we're going to shuffle up. This is gonna take a little longer. 1 to 5. And we got a 1. We hit our Grapha, that's unfortunate. But we got to summon out our Mothman and draw a card. Grapha effect will activate because it's mandatory, but we did draw into another discard outlet, which is good. This is just still continuing the chain here. Well, before we activate anything, we're going to normal summon out the Zephyros. And just so that we can play a little bit safer, so that we don't cause ourselves any more issues, we can start off by going into a Dweller. You can activate the Dweller right away, put the Zephyros into the graveyard. Now we can activate Danger Bigfoot. I want to summon out the Bigfoot anyway, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is what we're going to go for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got a 1, 2. Oh my god, we ditch our Bigfoot. That is unfortunate. That's a miss. But hey, we get to keep going. We can activate Nessie now. Now this is odds. Odds and even. Odds, even. Also odd. We ditch Silva and we summon out Nessie. That is unfortunate. But we're going to draw a card. And Silva effect will activate. Special summon Silva. Next, we're going to bounce it back thanks to the Grapha. So we get this onto the field. So we need another level 8. And to get that, we're going to need to bounce back and get another ditch. So we're going to use Zephyros' effect. And we're going to bounce Nessie back into our hand. And we're going to summon out the Zephyros. We're going to take a little bit of damage. That's okay. But as long as we can ditch Silva, we are golden. So we're going to basically activate the Nessie. We add it to our hand. We rolled a 2. Oh, wait. We have to re-roll because I didn't even decide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2. What do we hit? We hit the Nessie. That's good. Nessie effect. Guaranteeing us the card that we need. We're going to get a Jackalope. Jackalope effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit the 1 again. We hit the Jackalope. Jackalope effect. We'll throw a Thunderbird onto the field. This is good. This is so good. Now we overlay all of these. For Coach King. Coach King effect. Draw. I probably should cut before I draw anything. So, draw. Oh my god, that's so good. No burn though. Coach King. Bigfoot. They burn. Coach King. 3 times the turn. And we got a Grapha. They burn. Alright. Well, this is not the most ideal of boards because we didn't even hit a snow and we don't have the fusion out, but we can potentially dig into it. So we're going to go with Gates. Gates effect. We have to banish a fiend type monster. Yeah, we can hit Grapha. We have Grapha in hand. We will discard the Silva and we'll draw 1. Oh, we got to it. Silva effect, special summon. Silva bounce. Summon out the Rainbow. And here we can play a session. We're going to fuse from our hand the Grapha, and we're going to banish one from the graveyard because it just requires a dark monster. So we're going to banish the Jackalope, ditch this, and we can summon out the fusion Grapha. I'm going to put it down here. So right now I'm always going to be threatening a hand loop with this, but on top of that, not only am I threatening a hand loop, I'm threatening like a turn skip. So that's even better. Take these guys. I would say take these two. We can convert them into an IP Masquerena. We can try to get a spell negation up at the same time, but this is a little bit risky. This depends on whether or not this goes through. So we're going to activate the Bigfoot. And we're going to roll 1, 2. We got a 5, 6. Oh, we hit the Silva. Oh, actually, that kind of worked out. So special summon out the Bigfoot, draw a card. Silva effect, special summon. Grapha. Bounce, special summon. We take these two. I'll take these two. And you can protect our entire board, or we can just absorb a spell. It's not bad. This is not bad at all. And we can basically pass turn on something like this. That's actually pretty strong, I'd say. So, Dark World, pretty powerful in my opinion. You guys can definitely give it a try. I highly recommend it. It's also like super budget. Pick up 3 structure deck and like you have most of the cards. I would say like 80% of the way there. You just need to pick up like stuff for the extra deck, and that's like something you can fine tune, and a lot of stuff have been reprinted. Maybe not like the number 90, but everything else is relatively cheap and accessible, and that's the best thing about it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button. If you guys have any suggestions you would have, maybe different ways that you want to tell people how to play, leave it down in the comment section. I'll probably read it over, give it a glance at it, and well, that's all I got for this one. So make sure you guys hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ding the notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.